Hey guys, and welcome to another Stellaris video, our fourth Stellaris video on this channel. And today we're going to talk about like mechanic reworks or just like things I wish that wish can change in future Stellaris DLCs, expansions, and updates. So if you guys like the video, please leave a like and subscribe. I desperately need to move out of my parents' place. And also, if you guys also have some ideas that you guys want to share, please leave a comment down below. Either way, let's just get right into it. First up, we have space battles. Now, first up with space battles, one thing I want to preface is that Stellaris has a big problem to where mostly space battles kind of boils down to big number beats little number, and the little number really realistically has no chance of winning unless you're playing online where people spec. But usually, most and plus in Stellaris, most people play offline or maybe like one or two of their friends. And most Stellaris people are not really good at Stellaris. A lot of people role play, so a lot of people play offline and with CPU, and the CPU does not spec like they don't spec their ships out really like that. So a lot of the space battles mainly boils down to big number beats little number, and in I guess in grand scheme of things, I guess that's fine. But I feel like since we're playing a grand strategy game, I feel like you have a lot more use of the ship tree or the ship building thing, because you really don't even use that unless you're playing in online or competitive online. You don't really use that in offline because it always boils down to big number beats smaller number. Now, with I guess moving on from that, the second thing that I suggest that they can change in Stellaris is cloak fleets. Cloak fleets, they do have an ambush modifier. If you cloak them, then they go attack. But I wish there is more use of having cloak fleets. Like imagine if you're able to have like a cloaked armada, and just like they have, and now the cloak fleets can actually attack while cloaked. And there maybe a new technology where now ships have the detection tech. So maybe like later down, ships have detection tech to where if once they've reached a certain point, I guess of like you're able to have the detection tech, so you can put it on your ships. But before that, cloak fleets I feel like should be pretty, I don't say overpowered, but like have a decent buff to where like if the ships don't have detection tech on them, that they can mainly just wreak havoc, having like a cloaked fleet or having a cloaked armada, to where you can use your cloaked fleet to shoot at ships or bombard planets. I mean, cloaked fleets already have the debuff to where most cloaked fleets you can't usually use shields when you're while cloaked, and if you choose a cloaked option in the ship design tree, it's usually just buffed up in armor and hull, not really in shielding, because when it happens when you're cloaked. So if they are that debuff, I feel like you should be able to attack, your ship should be able to attack while cloaked. I feel like that'd be a pretty fun way to play. And also I feel like it adds more depth to the cloak mechanics, and having ships having to maybe spec into a detection field tree like they do with the star bases. But this time, if your ships have the detection tree, and if it's higher, then it'll force decloak like it usually does, and now that person has to adapt to it. I just feel like cloak fleets need a buff. I really like using cloak fleets, but it's so hard to use it because you have to decloak every single time. And I guess I get it. You have that ambush modifier if they don't have the detection thing, and most times they do. Even the CPU does. At a certain point, where you just cloak fleets just become like this neg. There's no point in having them. So if at a certain point there's no point in having them, I feel like cloak fleet should be like a pretty good early game option for people to do, in a pretty fun way of option, just having a fully like stealth armada, kind of like your whole build is based off stealth and stuff like that. I feel like that would be a pretty fun way to play, at least. Now, the third thing that I have is making ship designs, at least with naval combat and the space battles, is like make the ship builder more. I guess you have to make it more useful. I guess you could say that this like coincides with all the other points, kind of combined into one, because like I said before, big number beats small number in Stellaris, and with most of the ship design and stuff like that, most people don't use the ship design in Stellaris because like big number beats small number, or if you get a certain amount of like you just if you're out teching them, what's the point? So I feel like ship design, especially with like, I feel like if they need to upgrade this to help this out. I feel like they need to upgrade the CPU, not to where like with the higher difficulty they just get boosted in economy and stuff like that. They just need to actually make a better AI to where now the AI maybe make the AI at a like be able to actually counter your ships. Like the AI actually is smart enough, like the top like empires in your thing that are challenging you, rivaling you, or just empire or all the AI empires in general actually are smart enough to actually make like if they have a certain amount of intel on you, the AI has a certain amount of intel on you, they'll actually change their ship design to counter yours. So then now you actually have to go use a ship design to then try to counter them or try to get counter them. So then you actually have a fighting chance to win this war. Because I feel like because the ship design now, there's no point in using it unless you're trying to make a stealth armada this role play or you're playing online. But for offline, ship design is literally I don't see the point. There's no point of using ship design unless you just want to do it and just steamroll everybody. But at the same time, you don't have to do it because if you have a bigger number than them, you're gonna win. So if the AI is actually able to use their ship design and actually spec their ships out, I am not a programmer, so I don't know. Like, I think it'll be possible, but I'm not a programmer. I don't know how hard it is to do that. But I think that if the AI is actually able to use your ship design and actually spec into certain ships, depending on who they're at war against, and if they have a certain amount of intel on whichever empire or you, and they actually do change their ship design to counter you, that will, I think that will make that will make war in general a lot more integral and intriguing, and plus it will make the actual ship building or ship design tab more used because now you have to use it if you're going to win this war. But as far as like naval, that's mainly all I have for space battles. That I feel like Stellaris or Paradox could rework. But other than that, I mean, if you guys have any more things, please leave a comment down below. But let's keep grinding through. Let's get the ground combat. Now with ground combat, I know Stellaris is like a 4X strategy game. It's not like Total War or anything like that, or it's not like Mountain Blade or those type of like strategy games or whatnot. So I know there's like a lot more hands-off approach, but I feel like there should be a more, again, I'm not a programmer, but I feel like there could be a more interactive way than this like you deploy your troops and you just watch a screen go by of of like I feel like there should be a more interactive way for ground combat instead of you just going out and seeing and going out and just deploying your troops and just watching numbers go up and down. Um, I just feel like maybe I'm not saying they make a whole separate game within Stellaris like us like they just make once you do ground combat your shit just turns into a Total War game or a Mountain Blade game or it just turns into like a freaking a Battlefront Star Wars Battlefront old Battlefront game. But I feel like there could be a more interactive strategic way of actually implementing that to where is not really boring, I guess you could say, because ground combat is insanely boring in Stellaris right now, and it still is apparently, at least I think so, in the PC version. I don't think they really changed too much within the PC version. I don't know. If you guys play on PC, please let me know if ground combat has changed, but I don't believe it has. So first up for order of business from Paradox is please, please, please change the mechanics of ground combat to make it more interactive to play and more interactive to do. Because instead of just watching numbers tick up and down. The second thing I have for ground combat is that when I notice like one thing with when you're like doing a claim or like you're trying to take territory or you're just trying to vassalize, or like the fanatic, like the determinate exterminator driven simulator and the purifiers and swarm, is that they all kind of like you all have to capture planets, but I don't see the point of that. Now, like if you're doing like if you're like in my current campaign or whatnot, I'm not trying to capture planets. I mean, just trying to vassalize people. I should not need to go down and capture planets to vassalize them. I feel like if you're going to send troops to capture a planet, you either need to have claims on that planet, or the or if you're a fanatic, of course, you need to go in and capture the planet. But if you're just trying to just make them into a vassalized any type of vassalized system, I don't feel like you need to go and capture planets to boost their war exhaustion cost or whatnot. Because when you go do that, it significantly boosts their war exhaustion if you could take one of their planets. But I don't feel like if you're doing that, there should be no need to do that. Because why would I want to capture a planet if I just want all I want is them to submit? I don't want their planets. I just want them to submit. But in Stellaris, you for some reason still now in ground combat with the ground combat in the war in general, you have to send you if you want to like get the shit over with quicker, or sometimes they'll just resist and they won't uh, get the victory screen unless you actually go in and capture these planets, even though you just want to make them a tributary state or a vassalize or all the other types of vassalize options. I feel like you should only need to capture planets if you're trying to claim systems, and or if you're one of the fanatic type civic options in Stellaris. But that's my 2 cents when it comes to that those types of deals. And then like the last thing I have for ground combat is that ground combat should be more necessary into winning wars. I know that kind of like contradicts what I kind of said with like the like vassalized wars, but I feel like that should be a separate thing in general. But if you're trying to capture and claim systems, or you're one of the fanatic empires, or you're just going to war in general, taking the worlds is just, ground combat is not viable, or is no point because one, if you're playing offline, the CPU spam strongholds, like they spam strongholds to where at a certain point, you're left with no option to other than just bombard them. Or if you have a Colossus weapon, just use the Colossus. And in doing so, also talking about those two options, why would I want to go and capture planets where I can just bombard them into surrendering, or just use my Colossus and taking the planet that way, or cracking the planet? Even though I don't think most people use a planet cracker, but I can just take the planet that way, use my Colossus, or just bombard the planet until the planet surrenders. Now the planet's mine. I don't like. There's so many options to not actually send troops to capture a planet. Uh, to it makes it to where like ground combat making troops is literally, there's no point in doing it because you could just, your ships are better than you going out and just making the men to do that, or making the robots whatever type of ground troops you have. It's better to just bombard them or use your Colossus than just send troops down there. You don't have to worry about the energy credit or food consumption, and like I said, you don't have to worry about those type of things taken away from you, from your troops being there or you making troops. So they need to, they need to figure out a way to make the use of ground troops more viable than using a Colossus or just using your ships to bombard a planet to where the planet surrenders. Because at this current state of Stellaris console, and again, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing in the PC version, is that ground troops are just no point of having them. They just take up resources, like, and plus with the CPU spamming strongholds and having unyielding. I guess the unyielding is the only viable way of using being able to, because then you really can't bombard them unless at that point you just use your Colossus. And if you don't have the Colossus, yeah, you can use ground troops. But at that point, if they have unyielding, they're spamming strongholds. So you don't need a large troop. You don't need a large troop count to then take the planet. And then a lot of them are going to die. You have to rebuild it to begin. So they need to make a way to where ground troops in general they need to make ground combat more interactive. B, they need to make ground combat more viable option to do rather than just bombard or use a Colossus. And C, they just need to make to where if ground combat, if you're using a tributary or you're a tributary war, you should not need to do ground combat unless you're doing the other options. But that's all I really have for ground combat. Let's get to our third topic, which is the overall war screen. Now, this should be quick and simple. The overall war screen in general, everybody's been complaining about the overall war screen for I don't know how long now, since the last time, since they changed it. But war exhaustion as a option to win wars fucking sucks. I'm sorry, but it sucks. It is so terrible. You can literally be winning a war, but since you have but if you get higher war exhaustion, you're just forced to surrender the war. It's like they need that in general. This needs a rework just by saying that you can literally be winning a war, get high war exhaustion, and then lose said war. Because, well, not lose said war, but be forced to like do status quo, even though you might have been winning or came back, or you came back and now you are winning, but now you have to do status quo because you're at high war exhaustion. Which is like that just needs to go in general. Also, I feel like another thing as well, if you're in one thing in my, especially my playthrough now when I'm in a federation and I'm playing offline, is that they need to make to where even if you're not really in the federation, but if you're doing a defensive pact, or like, yeah, you have a defensive pact, or if somebody invites you into a war in general, you should be able to leave the war unless you're in a federation. I don't know why I said that. Federation is kind of different, but if you're in a defensive pact, or somebody invites you to a war, if you're doing a war with them or with the ally, and if you're if you're taking so many losses, but you're not the one who started the war or whatnot, or you're not the main defender, you should be able to back out from said war because they're attacking you. They ain't attacking me. I'm just like, I just happen to be your ally in this. But I feel like you should be able to back out from wars. I don't get why this. I feel like that should be a simple fix or a simple thing that Paradox probably should have thought of beforehand in Stellaris. I don't know why you just can't back out of wars if you're not the main attacker or main defender. Those two are locked in the war, I feel like. But all the allies should be able to back out of the war. Because like imagine if you're yes, you have you and your ally, and there's like four of other people that are attacking you guys, or you're attacking them, and they have four or five allies, and you're able to, and you're actually implementing strategy where you're able to corner off their allies to make them back out of the war, make the CPU back out of the war because they're taking too many losses. So now the people that you guys are trying to fight, now they just don't have they have no allies to help them, and now you guys can just go in and finish them off. I don't see why now you can't, even still this day, you can't back out of wars. I'm pretty sure in the PC version you still cannot back out of wars, but it's something that needs to be changed. And I feel like another thing as well is that there should be a better way of declaring victory in said war. I feel like like when it comes to, like, the victory screen and when you're winning a war, you're about to win a war. I just like the overall this screen, like this overall UI when it comes, like, when you click on your war screen, just in general, this needs a rehash. Like it looks very bland, I guess you can say. A lot of things in Stellaris kind of look bland. They kind of just like can spice up a little bit, but like the war screen in general needs a fucking rehash or revamp or whatever, because to me it just looks bland. And well, let's move on to like my fourth and final thing. That's the fourth and final thing that I feel like I really think about constantly. I wish they can do more with it, which is the espionage. Now, with the espionage, I know that they added the newer version. You can do proxy wars. You can make other empires go to war with other empires. But I'm pretty sure from what I've heard, it's still really bare bones with it. And there's not really like, you don't have really much you don't think I don't think you get to pick what type of war they're trying to go against. I'm not sure you can click if it's like a claim war, or they're just trying to make them a tributary state, or I think it's just a war in general that makes them go to war. But I do know that I've heard that it's very, very, very bare bones, which I just don't get. But at least we have it though. That is the one thing. At least we do have it. I mean, console version we don't have it, but we're going to get it eventually. Now, another thing I wish you can do with the espionage options is that I wish you can shift like you if you infiltrate the government of like I know you can kind of do it with the pre FTLs, but I wish that you can shift the government options or shift the government ethics or the faction ethics of an empire to where maybe if like say like if you're able to like put like infiltrate the government you actually make a faction that coincides with your beliefs, but now it might be opposite of what the empire is trying to do, or you're trying to do that's different from their beliefs, and now they're kind of like mainly it kind of shifts they shift the ethics or shift their ethics and all the other stuff to your that aligns with you to if you want to like vassalize them or invite them into like a federation or whatnot. I thought it'd be pretty cool to actually be able to shift people's like the ethics that you see when you're making your empire. It would be pretty cool to actually espionage people to make them shift in ethics with their government and what they're thinking. 'Cause I think that I just feel like that'd be a pretty cool strategy to use, and especially if you use it against another player. And now what they had now is what they had when they began with like the bonuses with the different ethics you can get with your empire. And now it's something different. And I only have to counteract that or something like that. I just feel like that'd be such a fun thing to do with the espionage option. Now this coincides with the next thing I have, which is there needs to be more espionage options than what they give you. Like the espionage is so very bare bones with what you can do with espionage options and how you can influence other governments and other empires in the galaxy. Because like I just feel like if like imagine a role play to where like you don't want to do like an economic role play. You don't want to be a powerhouse with a massive fleet or whatnot. But what if you just do a shadow like a shadow galaxy and or a shadow empire to where like you control everything and like you control the galactic community and all this other stuff. But you can control it from the shadows because you have your espionage, your leaders and your envoys are so good at espionage to where you could just influence people's put like their government ethics, their wars and whatnot. You just have a hand in everything, I guess you can say. But the espionage needs to have like that'd be a pretty cool thing to do to where like that's a cool role play thing to do, but we just don't have the options to do that in Stellaris currently because the espionage options are just so very bare bones. Like the biggest thing you could probably do now, I know this, at least for the console version, like the console version now, the biggest thing you can do now is like you can arm pirates, and the pirates are not strong at all. You can steal technology, which is okay, I guess. And then also, you can damage a star base. Like, come on now. Like, come on. I like there should be a big difference. I guess there should be a lot more options that you can choose to like. I feel like you should be able to role play like an espionage empire. I feel like that'd be really cool. Which another thing, which I guess goes to the next thing, which is like involves a century array megastructure. Why doesn't the century array megastructure help out with espionage? It gives base intel to everybody. You can see everything, but I feel like the SP like it. I feel like the century array should be able to boost operation speed and infiltration speed. Like it should just be able to boost all stats like that, but it just gives baseline intel. That's all it does. It gives you baseline intel with other empires. You don't have to worry about the gather information option when you do the espionage option. When it should do that, and also it should be able to boost your operation speed, boost your infiltration speed, and stuff like that to help out with the. I mean, the Century is literally just an intel gathering, like spy network kind of thing. Why it doesn't do all those options, I have no clue. Um, and then the last thing I guess I have here is that um, there should be special options. I feel like there should be like pretty like special options for specific empires, like maybe a criminal mega corporation or whatnot is able to have different infiltration options or different options that only's for the megacorp operation, or a religious empire has only operations for the religion empire, like spreading their beliefs or doctrine to said empire to shift their ethics or shift their faction ethics or something like that, or like criminal megacorp can spread crime throughout your empire to then boost up their I can't remember the actual thing what it's called, but since criminal megacorps, like when they put their branch office, that's what branch offices on the planet, it puts crime on there. They should be able to have an option to where if they should have an option to where they send an envoy or whatever in espionage envoy, and it boosts up your crime, but also boost up their profits because now there's more crime on your planets. I just feel like there should be specific options for specific play styles, which will then make the espionage a little bit more unique to each play style, I guess you can say. But all in all, that's all I have for today. I know it was a little bit of a ramble or whatnot. There's a lot of stuff to get through, a lot of stuff I want to talk about that I feel like they can switch and change in Stellaris. But those are just my thoughts. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Again, like I said, you guys will help me get out of my parents' basement. So, and if you guys have any options like you guys thought about that you guys want to share, please leave a comment down below. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Peace.